Good morning. It's Joe and Mike, buildassetsonline.com, coming at you with another stream. High ticket dropshipping Q&A. Ask us whatever you want. Doesn't even have to be about high ticket dropshipping.
We hope that it isn't.
Yeah.
We're sick of it.
We don't want to talk about it anymore.
We've said all that needs to be said. Joe's got the blanket. It's a cozy Q&A right now. Why'd you say it like that? Good morning. Was that like Wendy Williams?
I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
You know what's unfortunate? Like when kids get sick these days, do they watch The Price is Right when they stay home from school, or do they just go on TikTok?
Well, Bob Barker's dead.
Bob Barker's been dead for like a decade.
Well, yeah, Drew Carey took over, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I feel like, as many problems as like I guess television programming has, I feel like there is something I miss about the curated feed in the way that television presents it to you.
Yeah.
You know what
because
I'm saying?
now,
yeah,
everything is just too curated.
Yeah, we've gone too far on the curation side of things. Like, I want to flip the channels and kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, now it's too Orwellian how you're just automatically served whatever it is that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
But Game Control said, yeah, I would watch The Price is Right back in mid-2010s when I was home from school. How old are you, Game Control? That's what we're trying to find out here.
I think he's like 19 or something.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because he was one of our students.
Recently 18. All right. Okay. That gives me a little bit of hope. Recently 18. Yeah. And before we get started with the Q&A, obviously, people, if you're here, drop some questions in, so that way we can start answering stuff. But I do want to make a general announcement, because I don't know if anybody's going to ask a question like this, but we always get comments and people wondering, Google's making these changes and the algorithm and the smart campaigns and the smart bidding and all this stuff. And, we've been doing some things, not on the dropshipping side of stuff, but just a side experiment we've been doing. And I was testing out some of these performance max campaigns, some of these maximize clicks, maximize conversions, all this stuff. And then on top of that, we had a new student come in who had been doing Google ads for a year, and they were following all of Google's suggestions when it comes to, all the smart campaigns and stuff like that. This stuff sucks. People try to say, oh, Google's going to penalize you for not doing it their way. They're penalizing you for doing it their way because their algorithm is terrible. Like, they just want to take your money. It's really actually just quite a sight to see.
Can we go into some specific, without going into specific niches and products, can you talk about some specific examples of what you've seen? Maybe, you could switch up the product a little bit, just like what's happening at a more detailed level.
Well, there's a couple things, right? So like when you're, number one, we'll start it back here. When we sold that store that we sold for $650,000, the company that took it over thought they knew better than us, and they had their own in-house Google Ads team and all this nonsense. And they took all the campaigns we'd been optimizing through manual CPC for the last, however long it was, few years, and switched them all over to some sort of smart bidding bullshit. And you know what happened after that? About a week or two went by, and they emailed us saying, what's going on? Everything's failing. We need to hop on a call right now. And we go and look at their ads, and we were just saying to ourselves, I can't believe they've done this. You would even think that since Google had years of data, of conversion data inside the account to optimize around all of everything that it loves to do, right? Look at conversions, look at the algorithm and all these data points and all this stuff. Terrible. Didn't work. So then additionally, kind of a few different things that I've seen, right? So when you do something like a search ad, when you make a campaign, oftentimes they'll say, hey, do you want to show up on the Google Display Network? Do you want to show up on our search partners? And I was trying a text ad. It wasn't getting a lot of clicks. And I said, hey, let me just enable these things and let me see kind of how.
Well, this was for our other thing. I mean,
yeah. But I'm going to get into another example of
okay,
like what I saw with that that student. Yeah, this is for a different thing, right? But kind of my idea was, okay, if it's so smart, let me enable this stuff and let's see what comes up, what comes of it. I think immediately it just started. It got like 40 clicks and like absolutely just worthless clicks. On top of that, it doesn't even like report. Like you lose all reporting when you do a Performance Max campaign. It doesn't tell you what it's giving you clicks for. It's just a brick wall in terms of any feedback to you.
right.
And then you could do like a target CPA type thing. We've done this on YouTube with a little bit of success, but that's just totally different because people aren't searching on YouTube and stuff. It's like you have no choice.
No.
But yeah, basically what I'll say is when I looked at this guy's ad campaign that he'd been doing with Google, he was really selling a product. It's a high ticket product, and he was doing all this target CPA, all this maximize clicks, doing different display networks and stuff like that. And he had the most inconsistent results I had ever seen when I actually looked at like he had a lot of conversions in the account too, a lot of data for Google to optimize, and it just was doing so poorly. When in reality, if you just do a manual CPC campaign, just you set your bids for whatever keyword you want. Even in Google Shopping, you can do this too. It gives you so much more control. And so the idea that you're going to need to tell Google or you're going to need to hand over the keys to Google and let them run things, and that's the only way it's going to work. I just don't believe that at all right now. In fact, I think it's just a play to take your money.
Right.
Because final thing I'll say, when I looked at this guy's account, none of his converting terms, none of his converting keywords were anything that crazy that took the algorithm. It would have taken like 5 seconds of keyword research just to put in these keywords and bid on them.
And just to be clear, these people actually have their own kind of like private label high ticket product they sell on their website. They're not really doing high ticket drop shipping in the way that we would show them, but we're helping them with that.
Well, so in reality, it should have worked better because there's not competitors.
Yeah, no,
them to go and click on one thing, then go to another store, etc. So that's my rant right now.
Interesting. So, yeah, the thing that weirded me out about it is, I mean, obviously, I don't know nearly as much about ads as you do, but the one thing that did weird me out was they have this they obviously have like the display network, and I know that Facebook, different types of ads on Facebook, they will serve your ads on like all these like websites and random locations, and I felt like that never worked well. Like it was always just you either got to get in the feed or it doesn't work. And I feel like Google, you got to go after people that are searching for keywords, or I mean, I think targeting specific web pages and specific things with display ads can probably be good, but to just do it willy-nilly randomly, I feel like is a little crazy. And when you don't even know where it's showing, right? Like you can't even know, like it doesn't even tell you.
You can actually see on the display network where you're showing up. I mean, sometimes it's on like mobile apps.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that is like, how is that going to work?
That is like the lowest intent thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting clicks on a friggin' TikTok photo editing app.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no serious buyer intent here. They're just trying to run up your bank account.
I mean, I'm sure it was based on some data point of like they were browsing something somewhere.
It could be based on data points, but how do you know? How do you know?
I don't know.
That's really the problem, because I haven't seen it really generate results in any situation, right? If they had all these data points and you're optimizing for conversions, then you'd think theoretically it would get some results back. But Keem Nomad said, I work at a small PPC and SEO agency, and when we tried certain smart campaigns, we had to switch back to manual ASAP. Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting stuff. Like I said, I think it works okay for YouTube because you have no other choice. It's not a search intent type situation.
Keen, I want to throw a question at Keem Nomad, if he doesn't mind. So, I mean, look, when it comes to SEO, I have a certain way that I've done things historically. My game has always been high ticket, high margin, long tail, low competition at scale. That's just kind of how I do things, or just bulk long tail stuff. So links are, not a huge part of the strategy. I like to build up the domain authority, so like the long tail stuff ranks a little better. And that's just how I do things. But what I've recently learned, as I've been kind of delving into the world of, I guess you could say, how different people in different niches operate, I'm really learning a lot. And I guess my question to you is, does your SEO agency use PBNs? Because from what I'm seeing, doing some research and talking to some people, a lot of the black hat SEO stuff is just like more rampant than, and I don't even like to use that term, like whatever. Like a lot of the, I guess what people might consider black hat SEO practices are just rampant in basically everywhere. So I'm just
You're saying in
curious.
different agencies? You're saying a lot of agencies are using PBNs and other techniques?
Yeah, and another thing is like a guy I know owns like a pretty big digital marketing agency near me, and he outsources the SEO to another marketing agency. He white labels, so that goes on a lot too. We've been learning a lot about marketing agencies. Is kind of what's been going on the past month or two, and so he's white labeling this stuff, and he has no idea what's going on for the link building, So,
yeah,
I just, what's that phrase? It's like how the sausage is made or something.
That is a phrase. I don't know if you're using it right. Oh, no, yeah, you're asking Keem to tell us how the sausage is made. Pause.
Yeah. Tell us how the sausage is made behind the scenes as far as black hat techniques at agencies.
Okay. While we get to that, or while we wait for that, I want to get back to a question from Joseph here. So happy that you guys made this live in my time zone. Thank you for your recent We'll See student interview. It was greatly encouraging to me. Please recommend good niches for me. I'm relaunching my store. I mean, good suitable products. Let me ask you this, Joseph. If we announce these niches to the world right now here live on stream, you wouldn't be discouraged that everybody else is going to start doing it, and then they wouldn't be good niches anymore?
Well, let me jump in here because I have a thought on this. So I remember Joseph was one of our students. I don't know. I think he eventually, I guess he stopped. He took a break or whatever. I know for a fact English isn't his first language. And whenever I think we deal with students where English isn't their first language, they have a hard time grasping the concept of how we our niche selection approach. And the most important thing about the niche selection approach is the domain name. The products are, I want to say, almost secondary, but you have to pick a good domain name. And we were going back and forth about this a little last night, just amongst ourselves. And yeah, I think we might have to refine because I feel like some people get it out of the gate. They understand what we say when we say a good domain name, but others don't understand it right away. And I do feel like it's kind of a gap in the, it's like a language barrier thing.
Yeah, I think one easy way to think about a domain name could be it has to either serve a demographic or a department. So a demographic would be a surfer, right? So you can make a
Yeah.
store catered to surfers, whatever that
Yeah.
entails. Not that that's a good idea or a bad idea. Or it could be a department, which would be, I don't know, you go into Home Depot. What's one of the departments? Lighting,
Right. Right.
or you know, you could even branch out a little bit less, or a little bit less narrow than lighting, but you get the idea.
Now, which one of those two would you say is? Do you feel one is more superior than the other?
I don't actually, because I think I think we've done both, and I think it really it just has to do with how narrow one is. Like surfer, maybe that's not the best idea because they're only going to be how much stuff are they going to need or be
Yeah.
into. But like,
Well, you go
yeah,
water sports could be something that would
right,
encompass the demographic. But let
right.
me
So
ask.
some could be both. You could have it be
Yeah.
like water sports would be a department that serves all the same demographic, but like bathroom is to me is more of a department. That's
Right.
different demographics are involved in that.
Right. Well, the one gripe I have with the department thing that you're saying is that I feel like too many people, um, they immediately go to like outdoor something. So
Yeah.
I do feel that that's kind of like I don't know.
Maybe that just has to be a caveat that we say like don't make an outdoor store. But again, I've seen people make outdoor stores and get sales, but I just don't think it's like the best idea. It's
Right.
just inherently um, limiting. Like why? There's no reason. There's no logical reason to just have a store cater to the outdoors, to
Right.
cater to backyard when they're like just you can sell stuff inside
Right.
the house too if you just angle
Yeah.
it right. So long-winded answer, yeah, but really, Joseph, think about a domain name that serves a particular type of person, or is just like go on Home Depot, go on Wayfair, and look at the different sections that they have, and just pick a section.
Well, I think talking about the department play, I do think there is something that we haven't fully fleshed out. When you're talking about a department, um, I feel like it has to be something ideally. You talked about bathrooms. I think when you're going for the department angle, it should be a product line with enough, let's say, breadth, breadth of the like. How do you say that? Breadth with the D, breadth, like to where someone say we talked about an example maybe multiple years ago at this point, that Sinks website that we found.
Yeah.
When someone is trying to buy when someone is trying to buy a sink, there are so many possible options that you can actually build a whole website around it. So in that case, I feel like the department angle can be very good. Now, I like you said, I feel like outdoors is not really a department. I feel like if you're going to choose a department, you should almost pick a product that has a wide breadth of different types of products. Otherwise, I feel like you should go with the demographic. What do you think about that?
So I don't know. This is a concept we really have to like flesh out and be able to articulate to people in a better way. Because yeah, some people get it, like especially inside like our course and stuff when we show one of our old websites that we sold, and they can get that live example of
Yeah,
what we mean and like
I think most people get it. I think it's just
most people get it.
there's just
Yeah,
I
but
think when it comes to non-native English speakers, I don't know. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around how to explain it.
right. So like one thing you could do, like right now I'm on Home Depot, for example, right? So let me so like when you're on Home Depot, it shows you the breadcrumb on top of the path. Like when you click on a random product, right? So right now I'm looking at a kitchen sink. And so there is the Home Depot homepage, and then there's the kitchen section of Home Depot, and then there's the kitchen sink section of Home Depot, and then there's the farmhouse kitchen sink section of Home Depot. Right. So depending on the product, and like you said, Joe, how much breadth there is to that product type, like there's so many different types of sinks. You even have, like, you can have commercial sinks that are, when you go to a restaurant, you go to a gym, whatever, like you have slop sinks, you have farmhouse sinks. There's a wide breadth. So you can get away with being more narrow and just doing sinks potentially. That comes with the risk of, do I want to sell sinks? Versus if you back out of that, instead of doing sinks, just do kitchen. Now you could sell a whole bunch of sinks. You could sell kitchen islands. You could sell range hoods. You can dream it up and really come up with an unlimited amount of products that would suit the kitchen store.
Right.
That's
but I don't have a problem. I mean, I gotta say, I don't have a problem with the sinks only store in that scenario, just because there's so many types of sinks. Like, it's unlimited.
Yeah.
It's basically unlimited. I have a problem with an outside store because I feel like there aren't enough like products that are like common. You know what I'm saying? Like, if someone is searching for something outside, it's not really like one demographic, and it's also like products that aren't really tied together in like a way like that.
Yeah. And again, what winds up happening is people skim off the top. So if you think of like an outdoor store, I don't want to give away too much stuff, but like essentially you wind up just picking a bunch of things that aren't necessarily that common together. When instead, if you just think of like one thing that's related to outdoors, let's say trampolines, you can probably think of 4 to 5 closely related things to trampolines that would make a much more tight-knit store.
Right.
And just frame your store and your domain name around that.
Well, I'll give you, to expand on that a little bit, if you take the concept of a trampoline, you're really thinking about like recreation. Like, you're almost thinking about like a park type thing. So in that case, like, I would prefer the angle of sort of like a recreation, even almost like a commercial park type store.
Right. So if you take the recreation angle, what was that?
That was your chair. I don't know.
I got like buzzed in my head. Somebody like Bill Gates. Anyway, yeah. If you take the recreation angle, then you can sell trampolines. You can sell like jungle gyms. You can sell whatever. So if you think about one product, you can think about all the different ways it can apply, all the closely related product types, and decide how you want to angle your store from there.
Right.
So we probably just confused Joseph to the point where he's not even going to launch his store again. But no, I don't know. Pick a product, find 3 to 5 very closely related things related to that product, and then pick a domain name that can host them all under an umbrella. That's what I would say. So let's move on from that. Game Control said, I was 17 when I made my store and it was all under my mom's name. When I turned 18 and switched over, Shopify payments eventually banned me. I don't know what to say about that. Because you're 18? I don't know what the if you want to explain more about that, go ahead. But yeah, it could be because something was sketchy about it. Maybe you had no credit history. I don't know. They probably don't do a credit check, but it also could be in relation to if you got an order in and you didn't fulfill it correctly. Like when you first start a store, Shopify is more, they're trying to feel you out, and they can say, hey, provide us with proof of shipping for this stuff. Send a picture of your warehouse, whatever. And there's like easy ways to get around the warehouse thing, but I haven't seen them do that in a while, Joe. That was like a big COVID COVID era hurdle people had to go through. Like Shopify payments was really on the fritz. Now it's really just more like Google Ads.
Yeah.
Google Merchant Center is really
which I suspect that will die down more in time. It seems like these things kind of ebb and flow. I feel like the reason is because unfortunately during the COVID times there was a lot of like scam stuff going on, like especially I don't know, like wasn't there like a mask shortage of some point or like shortages of things? And I remember people would throw up stores where it was like they didn't even have the masks, but people would like just go crazy buying them and then they would just take the money or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like, and I feel like there's stuff going on within Shopify. You see on Google Shopping, like stores that are straight up like scams that, I mean, we've run into them many times. They don't sell the products. They like, you just buy it and then they run away with the money somehow. So I think it's kind of it's always like a response to something.
Yeah. Oh, so this question. Advice on Google on Bing ads ban. Got banned instantly when I set it up, and I think it's pretty common. I appealed, but they denied it. So, I mean, I don't really get too deep into Bing ads. If Google ads accepted you, then just go with that. I mean, I think Bing can kick rocks.
Yeah.
You just gotta, it might just come down to if Google accepted you, but Bing didn't, I have no idea what that could be. Bing is the Wild West to me, so I don't get too deep into their policies and their rules, and I don't even think they care about their own rules. They'll just ban you, and that's it. So, yeah, I haven't seen a lot of people have luck getting out of Bing suspensions. Like with Google, we seem to have it pretty close to down where we know how to implement certain fixes that get people unbanned, especially from Merchant Center. But Bing ads, I don't know. Cartoon, thoughts on selling mostly B2B for first dropshipping store, namely restaurant equipment. He said, I am more niche than restaurant equipment, but the point is I am selling mostly to businesses. I think kind of what we were saying before, it comes down to your domain name. Like, I just don't see a reason to just sell B2B. Is kind of my thoughts about it. Especially with this type of thing. Like, you're selling restaurant equipment, you're basically just selling appliances. And I guess, yeah, you could, there's like the tables and stuff like that. And there's lighting and stuff. So not necessarily a bad idea. But yeah, if you think about even something like a wine cooler, which is like the most common freaking dropship product of all time, but something like a wine cooler, customer, like regular home users will buy it, but also businesses will buy it. The same product. So it's, I don't know. Also, yeah, I think it's fine. But if you have stuff that's not B2B, if your store is like Carter's Restaurant Supply.com and you have a B2C product, will a customer feel comfortable, like a home customer, feel comfortable buying off that website? I mean, the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, you can appeal to the restaurant thing without turning off the home customer or just saying that I'm going to sell B2B.
Yeah, I mean, because people buy stuff off Webstaurant store. It's not just like only restaurants that buy off Webstaurant.
So true.
People don't really care about that.
I want to know what they're doing. I wish I knew more about Webstaurant store.
Webstaurant is like the low-key king of e-com, I think.
Like, I literally know nothing about I mean, not that I know that much about Wayfair, but like, yeah, I feel like Wayfair is such a more common name, but Websteron is like, I don't know, they dominate a lot of spaces online.
Websteron's annual revenue is 91 million.
Wow. What's Wayfair? Well, Wayfair's got to be in the billion though. Billions, right?
Oh, 11 billion.
Okay. So they're
all right, yeah. All right. Wayfair is 100 times bigger. I mean, at the same time though, I would rather be Websteron than
yeah, I would like to know, like I would like to know what's going on like behind the scenes as well.
It's owned by some company in Lancaster, PA. Yeah, I mean, because you have to consider that Websteron is a private business, so
yeah,
they're taking it easy.
I do think there are a lot of niche opportunities to be explored on Websteron store. Like I think there are a lot that it might be like kind of, I don't know, the supply, like it might be hard to get in with some of the suppliers, but just looking at some of the products, I feel like it could open up a lot of doors as well to like your thinking. Like I just went to their homepage and I'm seeing hard and soft serve ice cream machines. So I just feel like that's one interesting one. And that could also lead down a path of finding lots of other things in that space as well. I wouldn't have actually thought of that.
Yeah. Agreed. Litmo Health. Is it worth to build 2 stores from the beginning to diversify income? Example, if the first one would not be successful, what is FE? Or maybe diversify with some services to have a more stable income. You said there's always a risk here. Choosing a bad niche, having problems with getting suppliers, Google ad bans, etc. I'll tell you this right now. If you do things kind of the way that we prescribe inside of our coaching program, everything we do is built upon the idea that if you start with the right domain name and you pick your store in a proper way, you're not going to pick a bad niche. That's the whole point. Like if you angle your store the right way, you're never going to run out of suppliers to contact. You're going to have a bunch of different like industries you can dip into. And yeah, doing it this way, we've never had a failed store. And Google ad bans, usually if Google bans you on one thing, unless you fix that and resolve why you got banned, it's not just going to like automatically work on the second store. So it's not really hard to get a store going and have that getting some sales. And then you can decide, hey, do I want to grow this store more, or like, what's the deal? And then you can make a second store down the road. But you have to just get it right at first. You can't just start 2 stores simultaneously.
Mike, what I will say is this. So we were meeting with a student yesterday. Well, I was. And this is who we were talking about earlier. They have another business and they're looking to start a dropshipping store. I have no problem with them starting a dropshipping store after they've done things to their other business where they're kind of just waiting on to see if those things are going to bear fruit. So I think if you have not had any monetary success online, starting 2 things at once is not going to be good. But there is a time when you can build multiple assets, and it's when you have that one asset and you're kind of like in a waiting period and like there's nothing for you to do that's valuable except wait, which does happen.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, when you start that first store, it does require a lot of energy. To do it simultaneously with 2 stores, it's just not a good thing to do. Like the energy and the focus that's required for starting a new thing is more than a lot of people realize. And people fail. One of the reasons people fail is because their energy is too focused in different areas. You're spread too thin. Versus if you say, I'm going to commit to this one thing, I'm going to put all my energy into it. That's what you have to do to actually get over that first hurdle of getting the ball rolling, getting a website up, getting ads running, figuring out why things are going a certain way and getting to sales and getting to profitability. Carter said a website deep dive video would be great.
That's a good idea. We should do that.
Toby, do you put much effort into social media, not social ads, just in terms of growing a following on Pinterest and Instagram, for example?
No, never. We don't even do that for Build Assets Online.
Yeah. To do that for a store that's selling sinks, it's just a waste of time, man.
Let me actually, I think I could pull something up here that's going to show a good example of this. So we were just talking about Webster on store. And I was searching their YouTube channel. I have their YouTube channel pulled up. Like 12 views on portion control tools. What is first in, first out? Like, do you think they're getting any sort of monetary return from these YouTube videos?
Go to popular. Like instead of latest, hit the
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just something that's probably been viewed on their website. That's why it has so many views. So 4.9 million, 3.6 million, and then fried gnocchi 12 years ago. How to use a rice cooker. This literally has zero buying intent.
What would Mark Cuban say?
I don't know. Something wrong.
Webster on store sounds of the kitchen.
What?
The second row. Yeah.
So this is kind of like, I guess, similar to what Wayfair does when they like send out their postcards or something. Like if they're running an ad, like they look like an ad, like that's more like name recognition type thing. Like there's not going to be a lot of direct monetary return from that.
Yeah, I don't know what the idea was there.
I mean, I get it, but it's like this is what you do when you have like extra budget, I feel like. Or you have like a marketing team that's like they're not focused on direct returns.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. How many people saw that out of the 1.3 million and then wound up buying?
Very few. Very few. Mark Cuban, we discussed it at the conversion rate.
Yes.
He would never
invest in what what's the longest time you've owned a store?
Well, the one we own now, we've owned it since 2016, right?
Yeah, it'd be 7 years. It's coming up right around 7 years, I think, since we made it. So,
wow.
I gotta look at the sales on that, but I feel like it's been doing six figures for like many years. It's been doing over, I don't know, probably over like 400,000 for 2 years.
Yeah,
which is a good.
And I gotta tell you, this is the hardest. We gotta getting to 1 million a month is gonna be interesting. Like, it's a bit of a slog.
Bit of a slog, isn't it? Dade County local. Dealers sent me paperwork to fill out, then just stop responding to my emails, LOL. Followed up with them 3 or 4 times already. How would you proceed?
Well, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would keep following up with them. I mean, it was a national holiday quite recently. So that is that could be a factor.
Yeah, like when did they send you the paperwork and stop responding? How long ago was that? a week, 2 weeks, a month. Select Fitness said, "Sup, gang. Back with my business email. Oops." Exposed. Connor Holmes said, "Happy Q&A day, everybody. I missed most of this, but I'm glad to catch some." You didn't really miss much. Dex said, "What would you recommend to somebody who is making sales but is in a niche where there is not many more suppliers to contact and cannot see the business growing anymore?" If this is truly the case, which I'm skeptical of, then I'd say, okay, go ahead and make a new store. But is this truly the case? It's hard to know.
Yeah, I would have to see the site, and I'd say, is there any SEO opportunity for the site? That's something you could do to make more sales. But yeah, if you feel that you're maxed out and you're actually at a point where you're profitable and you don't know what the next move is, I would say making a new store is not a bad thing to do, because you might figure out the next move down the line, and you might actually learn it from that next store. So, nothing wrong with being out of moves and just doing some new moves, but it's got to be the right time.
Yeah, like how much are you even making? Because it's unlikely if you're making like 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month, that you're in a situation where the business can't grow anymore. So that's one part of it. If you're at 5,000 a month plus and you're having a tough time growing it, yeah, make a new store, because at that point you've kind of figured out how to get one store to 5,000. It shouldn't be too hard to get another store to 5,000, and now you're making 10,000. You have a 6-figure business portfolio going, and now you're on your way. So that's what I gotta say. Porta Deals, what would be your recommendation for someone who is not native English? I can communicate pretty well, especially if I prepare in a topic like talking with suppliers. But there might always be something that will surprise me. What is FE?
For example?
For example, some hard questions or unknown word phrase during a conversation. Oh my God.
Okay, so like, it's okay that you, like, if you have an accent or whatever, but like, I really feel like if you're getting into business in a market with native English speakers, and your supplier partners are going to be native English speakers, your customers are going to be native English speakers, like, I really feel like you have to have some sort of mastery over the language, unfortunately. Like if I was going to get into like the Spanish market or something, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that unless I like had full mastery over the language. And like having an accent is like totally fine, but I don't know, you gotta understand like 99.9% of the words.
Yeah.
And also like the nuance, like we were talking about before, how we've seen with our students that go international to the US, if they don't have a full mastery over the language, like the domain selection can be like more challenging because they don't understand how different words like connect to one another.
Correct. I mean, if you just typed all this yourself, then I think you have enough mastery over the language to do this. This is all pretty. I'm not even seeing like any sort of grammar errors or anything.
Well, maybe typing he's better at typing than speaking.
Yeah, it just depends on your level of mastery. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just the reality of it. But at the same time, it's not going to cost you anything to start up a store and call suppliers. Like,
But
that's the free part of it.
But his next comment is something, I don't know what country he's from, but doing it myself, it's not something that I want to do. Not enough potential. I feel like people don't like give this enough of a chance.
Yeah, that's true too. Like, how are you analyzing potential?
Yeah, exactly.
What business analytic experience do you have to do that? So, and again, if there's not enough potential, there's not enough potential. But it's not going to cost you anything to start up a store and call suppliers, even in your own country.
Yeah, and the other thing is like if you really do want to sell in the U.S. market and you have your mind dead set on that, I feel like, and you're not living in the U.S., you're not getting a chance to speak English and speak even like business English, which I mean, it's still English, but you know, certain phrases come up, certain words come up that you might. I feel like you gotta like get in there to get the practice. That way, in 1 or 2 years' time, you might have a steeper learning curve than someone who's a native speaker, but at least you'll be on the path. Like you're learning a skill all on its own that you're going to need for business in English speaking countries.
Yeah. What country are you in, Porta Deals? Start with telling us that. Connor Holmes said, I just recently pulled the trigger on running my first ad campaign. It has lots of impressions and sales, lots of impressions and sales, and still no sales. It probably means impressions and clicks. Can you please throw some pointers out there for those in my position? Of course, there's many layers to this, and this is why, we work specifically with people on this stuff day in and day out. This is not like, oh, there's an immediate fix for it, but you got to take it step by step, right? What am I getting impressions and clicks for? What products are getting those impressions and clicks? What are the keywords that I'm showing up for? On my page, is my page worse than somebody else selling the same thing? So you have to track it through the whole cycle of, a customer searching for something. All right, was it computers? Was it mobile? What was the device situation? What did they search? What product did they click on? What does my product page look like compared to everybody else? And usually by doing that, you'll find some answers.
Yeah, I would say if you're doing something, I mean, without really being able to go over the shoulder and teach you this stuff, I would say your ads are doing certain things. You have many different options. You have keywords, you have devices, all the things that Mike just mentioned. Ask yourself, why are you doing things in this way? Why are you showing for these keywords? Are these the keywords that you want to show for? Do you want to spend this much on this device? If you spent more on another device, would that be more fruitful? So you have to look at all the variables that Google gives you and kind of use your common sense to diagnose what's going on and think about what would be better.
Yeah, where is my spend going? That's really a lot of times what it comes down to. Is my spend going to all generic type keywords and people are clicking from mobile phones? That's potentially an issue. And again, is it going to a product page where I'm not the best price, or there's a million other people selling it, or I'm not doing anything to stand out? So this is why you need to look at the whole picture to answer this question. Keem Nomad, I'm in the PPC department of my agency, but I can definitely see how the SEO guys handle things and get back to you. I'm sure that agencies tend to stay away from black hat SEO.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I would not be so sure about that. I was actually watching some YouTube video yesterday, and I forgot the exact figure. Let me look it up because I really want to know.
But what are we defining as black hat SEO?
Okay, so wait. Let me just say this: that this guy Fat Joe SEO, he does SEO tutorials, but he has a video talking about how SEO is a $100 billion industry, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. $100 billion goes into getting people to the top of Google. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of agencies and thousands and thousands and thousands of independent actors, and I think there's a lot that goes on.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you're basically no, I was gonna say you're in a game where it's basically a zero-sum game where you're either the top 3, position 1 ideally for a keyword. And so if you're an agency, you're going to probably do what it takes to get results for your client like immediately,
Yeah. The whole thing in and of itself is, like you said, it's a game where everybody's trying to do whatever it takes to get to the top of Google. And isn't it true that even in Google's like terms, you're not supposed to pay people for links? Like even if it's like a guest post or,
you're basically not supposed to do anything with the intention of building links. In essentially.
So.
But obviously, agencies know that if you have a website and you're a plumber in Washington, D.C., and you have 100 other plumbers in Washington, D.C., you're not just going to create the best content and outrank your plumbing services page in Washington, D.C. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
So that's what I'll say about that.
Toby said, I haven't bothered to set up PayPal for my store yet. Have you seen any real dip in conversion rate or trust by not bothering with PayPal? Historically, no. The big website we sold, we took off of PayPal. We took PayPal off the website, and it didn't seem to affect our total sales. I mean, even before then, PayPal would make up 20% of the sales at most. So maybe some people drop off, but the majority of people will just use the other option. Evgeny Yordanov said, I'm so excited. It's the first time catching this live. He has some questions. We'll get to those in a second. It's an interesting one. Keto Meme. I can invest no more than 2.5 thousand, preferably less, in this business, and I have to make it work in no more than about 4 months. I mean having at least 1.5 thousand stable profit per month. Do you think that's a good idea to invest in this business, or maybe look for something less dependent on things like Google, etc., like agencies, some services, or maybe diversify? Do you want to go first or me?
Well, I think SFUSA answered this, and he basically said, if you has to succeed within 4 months is setting you up to fail. I'd ask you why you need that 4 months, but that will set you up to fail, in my opinion. I feel like, I don't like starting a business under such hard constraints. I think it's very limiting and it's very stressful.
I wanted to say something about this point. Where he said, do you think it's a good idea to invest in this business, dropshipping? Maybe look for something less dependent on things like Google, like having an agency or some services. If you aren't making $1.5 thousand a month, how are you going to start up an agency? What value do you have to offer somebody in the realm of online business? What service can you provide somebody to build up that amount of revenue in 4 months? It seems like you're lacking the skills to create income for yourself. So, yeah, I think doing this is a bad idea. I think you should get a job.
And on that point, like, what are you going to do? Back to your other point, something less reliant on things like Google. What are you going to do online that's not reliant on Google? And if you're not reliant on Google, what are you relying on? You're relying on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You're reliant on a big tech entity no matter what you do. So
yeah. If you become a freelancer on Fiverr or on Upwork, you're relying on Fiverr or Upwork.
If you get a job, you're dependent on that company at the to keep employing you. They might be dependent on Google. Their whole business might be dependent on their Google rankings or their Google ads. And so your whole job is based on that. So, you got to, I guess, choose your master and how you want to serve them.
Right. And if you don't have more than $2,500 to lose, that's like all the money you have. It's just not a good financial decision to start a business. That's just the reality of it. So get a job that's going to pay you, and then you can build this up on the side, and it's going to be less risk if it takes 3 months to achieve profitability, 4 months, 5 months. The whole way that you win in online business is by taking little bets that have little impact if they work or not. Right? If you can't afford to lose a couple $100 when you're trying to sell a product that's going to make you $1,000, then you just don't have enough money to be in the game. If you can keep going at it, taking little bets over time that aren't really going to hurt you, eventually you're going to win. Because this isn't poker. This isn't stocks. Everything that you're doing is compounding your skill set. And once you get results, you learn how to do that over and over again and get more results. So if you can't stick with it long enough to get to that point where things start working out, then you just got to build up some more bankroll so that you can do that. By the way, we're getting towards the hour, guys. If you are interested in working one-on-one with us, we will help you create a dropshipping store, help you get it profitable. We work with select people. Go to buildassetsonline.com/enroll, schedule a free strategy call, and you can see if you're a good fit for our coaching program. Next question. I just found out that we have to work with popular brands to be able to get the best searches, the brand name searches. Otherwise, the CPCs are way too expensive. What do you recommend being careful about when choosing the suppliers? Thanks. I found out that we have to work with popular brands to be able to get the best searches. This isn't really true. So most of the time, you don't want to work with the most popular brands because they're not going to have the best pricing. They're going to be pretty competitive. Like if you want to sell, like selling a Samsung TV is not a good idea. Yes, Samsung is going to have a lot of branded searches, but a customer can go into Best Buy and get one. There's going to be, like you said, hundreds of people trying to compete on those Samsung TV keywords. But even something super popular like TVs, there's a lot of lesser known brands. Like we were looking at this on another stream. It was like an outdoor, like patio TV. And that had way less sellers and was way less competitive, but there are still people that are going to be searching that brand. If a brand exists in the US, there's going to be people that are searching for it. So that's all you really need. You know, like our best-selling products come from brands that nobody's ever heard of. But if you're in the market for that particular product, you're doing your research, then you find out about it, and then you search for the brand, and then boom, we're there. So you don't have to be very careful when it comes to choosing suppliers because there's no cost to acquiring a supplier. If you get in with a supplier, their pricing sucks, move on. You start selling them, you don't like working with them, move on. So this is the thing you have to be the least careful about with anything that you do in the dropshipping world. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I want to get to the next question.
Okay. Say this name, Jeff.
No.
Okay. I'm going to say it. Photovoltaica de la Demu. High-ticket e-commerce seems to be more and more popular, heavily promoted by some new gurus, especially in the last year. It seems that there's so much competition. I've analyzed a few niches, listed stores, and it seems that many dropshipping stores fail. They appear on my list, and when I check them, after a few months, they are already closed. High-ticket dropshipping is promoted for at least 6 years or more by some popular gurus, so there should be so many of them. Most dropshipping stores are also pretty fresh, like a few months or 1 year. Not many of them are older. What do you think about that?
Let me say this, okay? recently, like Mike and I buy courses all the time, different business, and we see like different business models. I've been dabbling in another business model, which I know a lot about because it's SEO focused. And when I look at the community of these courses, and these people give their students a lot less attention than we give our students, but no one has any idea what's going on. Like none of the students, I'm saying. They just don't have the experience or the acumen to like know what's going on. And I don't know how else to put that. And I feel like unless you actually get into the business, put in your time, get your experience, then you have no idea what's going on. And that's the unfortunate reality. And I would not be doing any sort of business analysis until I have at least, I'm just throwing out a random number here, 3 to 5 years experience in that business or some sort of related business, some sort of business. So high ticket dropshipping, I'll just say it's dependent on Google Ads, SEO, search engine stuff. So unless you are very, very, very well versed, you've made a full-time income with something related to Google Ads, something related to SEO, then you have no concept of figuring out what's a good business model that works with it and what's bad. So I don't know if that made sense, but I hope it did.
Yeah, the problem is people try to analyze if something is a good business model or not. And I mean, I'll say this. We were just talking about a store that we've owned for 7 years. It's been doing 6 figures for probably 5 or 6 years at least. And anybody that I've seen get to like a high level of profitability, let's say even 50,000 revenue a month, 100,000, they're not being taken out by like all this competition that's coming in and making new stores and stuff. What you're seeing is probably true. Yeah. A bunch of people come in because there's people talking about it, but mindset, unfortunately, is actually really important when it comes to this. It's like I was just saying to ketamine. People are coming in, they're taking bets they can't afford to lose. So that's what happens. People make stores and they're not learning enough about Google Ads and the ads don't work and they don't know what's going on, so they stop their store. Versus if you could just get through that period and actually put a lot of attention and focus into figuring it out, not blowing through your entire savings account. If it takes you, even if you hover at $10,000 a month in sales for a few months while you're trying to figure this out, you're not wasting too much money. The cost to get into this is so little, but people don't stick with it because they don't know how to spend their money. They don't have the right mindset. They go looking off somewhere else once it doesn't work as well as they thought that it would, when in reality, if you just stuck with it, you would eventually get results. You'd be able to build off those results. You'd be able to build your store, and then you'd be kind of where we are, where many of our students are that are doing 6 figures, that are selling their stores for 6 figures. And you realize that the majority of people just don't know what the hell they're doing.
I have a similar analogy. I was just looking up this statistic. I don't know if this is a real statistic, but in jiu-jitsu, I think 80 to 90% of people quit before getting their blue belt. That's just like a random thing on Reddit. And what that tells you is people get into something and for whatever reason, they don't like it. They think it's too hard. They just don't stick with it for any significant period of time for them to have like any sort of depth of understanding of it. And that happens with most things. So this kind of business is no exception.
It's just life.
You just get into it. You don't like it for whatever reason. You experience a bump in the road. You quit. That's most people in anything in life, whether it's a sport, whether it's a business, whether it's a routine, like a personal routine. You know how many times I say I'm going to like, I don't know, like brush my teeth with my left hand or something. And then I do, no. And then because you're like, oh, it's supposed to, whatever, help with your like brain connections because you're doing something with your other hand. So this, like, not that I haven't done this, but this is something I heard of. But this is something, if I were to do this, I would maybe do this for like 2 weeks. And then I'd be like, oh, screw this. I'm just going to go back to my regular hand.
Right. Right. And that's, it comes down to mindset and money management together. I think are important backbones. Like, even when I first started doing online business and I started doing Kindle, like Kindle as a business model has problems. And I'm sure I could have researched all those problems. I could have researched how many people come into Kindle. I could have looked at all the authors and, oh, they've only been around for a year and then they stopped publishing and stuff like that. But I really didn't. I saw people that were having success and I shut out everything else for like 9 months. And I just focused on going all in with that. Not spending all my savings, but just doing it with my absolute best effort for an extended period of time. And it worked out very well. So that's just what you have to do with any online business that you choose to do, even with any offline endeavor. If you actually want to see it through, you can't look around at what other people are doing, because the majority of people are just getting into stuff. They're fly by night and they're out. So
yeah. When I first started retail arbitrage, before you started Kindle, I bought the course by Jessica LaRue, ABC Amazon Bootcamp, or something like that. That's what it was called. I did not even know what retail arbitrage was. I saw this thing it was like Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income. I called my mom. I was like, if this is a scam and they like steal my credit card information, like I can dispute it, right? Because I didn't know at the time. And she's like, yeah, no problem. So I bought this thing. Didn't even know what retail arbitrage was. I just knew that this was a way to make money online. I went through the course. I was doing it the very next day on my lunch break at work. I did not spend any time Googling, oh, does retail arbitrage work? Like going on Reddit, going on Twitter. Zero time doing that. Absolutely zero. But this is what people spend most of their time doing.
Yeah. So I like that question. That gets to the root of a.
I'm getting fired up now, Mike. That question.
Another hour. No.
Yeah, people have no idea what they're doing in anything, and it's important to. I would say the most important thing is to understand what you don't understand. I constantly say to myself, do I have a full understanding of this? Is there something I'm missing? And I know, like, to some degree of certainty, what I understand and what I don't understand. And some people have zero concept of that. Some people think they understand things that they don't understand. And they underestimate what they could understand if they put the time in.
Yeah. So stop looking around at the normies and trying to see what they're doing. Just look at the people that are getting results and follow them, emulate what they're doing, and give it enough time to achieve mastery. Evgeny says, in this case, you're probably recommending bidding on branded and unbranded search. Of course, the best way is to see the competition about the specific search, but I feel like to be able to do this, I need to do different campaign for every product, because Google Shopping is not too good connecting my keywords with the desired products. Yeah, so we do recommend bidding on branded and unbranded searches, but what the hell is that? You don't need to see the competition about the specific search. That's literally impossible. There's millions and millions of searches you can show up for. So I think you're just way overthinking this. You don't need to be worried about this type of thing. It's I don't know what to say. We don't do this, and it works fine. Toby, can you explain your strategy for advertising non-map products? For example, how often are you checking competitor prices? What's the minimum percentage margin you will match them to, etc.? Well, I'm not going to price match for a non-map product, so you can just put that right in your policy. And really what I'm doing is I'm just setting my prices at whatever I feel comfortable with. And if I really want to sell it, I'm going to have it be something that's as competitive as possible given my margins, and then really just set low bids and forget it. That's all you can do, because you can't stop somebody from undercutting you. There's no map. So you have to be okay with the fact that you might not sell as many of these as you want to. And so just if you have that mindset, you bid super low, then sales may come in, they may not, and that's how it's going to be with a non-map supplier. Evgeny said, not a lot of the dropshipping stores are old because more people give up before they even start. The model is being advertised as easy to handle. That's why they get disappointed quick and leave it. The one thing about getting disappointed quick, with any business model, with anything, people get this sort of dopamine rush when they have this idea that they can do something new, and they're going to think about how they're going to make all this money, and they're just future projecting. They're getting the dopamine hit of that. And then you know what happens? They have to do real work, and the dopamine goes away. And then that's what kills people.
And what is easy? Like, how do we define easy to handle? Like, people think they're going to get into something and it's like, I snap my fingers and the money is coming in. That's easy to them. But the reality is high ticket dropshipping, it is easy, but you got to compare it to other businesses and having a real job. It's way easier than any real job I've ever had. It's easier than opening up a restaurant. It's easier than opening up a landscaping business. It's easier than opening up a franchise. You're going to get $1 million and open up a McDonald's. Like, what is easy? You got to really put easy into context.
Yeah. There is no better business model on the planet, in my opinion, for a beginner, better than high ticket dropshipping. Because there's zero inventory. There's very, very little upfront cost. You're going after when people are searching for the exact item you're selling, and you're going to make hundreds or thousands of dollars if somebody buys it. And then on top of that, you're building an asset that you can sell. So yeah, it's as easy to handle as anything legitimate can be. But of course, yeah, people come into it and they fail for different reasons, and they just don't put in the time, and they get demotivated and they quit. Of course.
It's easier than being a farmer. It's easier than, like,
yeah. I mean,
it's easier than the hardest things you'll have to do in your life. It's easier than all those things. But maybe it's not as easy as you want it to be.
Yeah. He said, I mean, most people are advertising it like you're putting the website up, and then after 3 days you are picking it up. Of course. That's how they want you to feel, like, oh, if I just do this, I'm going to have the yacht, whatever. And then you get in and you realize, oh, I actually got to put in work, or maybe they're just misleading people or scamming and stuff. So that's why we're not flashy, because, we're not trying to mislead people. This is the life. You want to drop ship, this is the life you're going to live. You're going to be in your mom's basement with the Dragon Ball Z blanket. But, we're taking it easy. Dade County said, us. I thought most people quit after getting a blue belt.
Well, I think that's true too, but I think most people quit before. Yeah, I think it's both.
Where were we? I've heard opinions that it is not good to hire people from countries like the Philippines, because when people buy expensive stuff, talking with natives is often important for conversation. What do you think? Also, I wonder if it would be better to hire people from Central, South America, same time zone. Regarding the time zone, the Philippine people don't care about that. They're built for this. What do you have to say, Joe?
No, I would say it depends on the person. And, we have people from the Philippines on our team. Maybe they're not doing customer service, but that have English that are indistinguishable from, or even better than, some Americans. And then we have some that I wouldn't put on the phones in a million years. So, it's just about finding the right the right person. And yeah, you wouldn't. So like I talk about sometimes how if like my wife is dealing with like the health insurance company and some stupid thing they wouldn't cover. And oftentimes you connect to someone in the Philippines who has terrible English. And yeah, it's really annoying because they just don't understand English that well. And they just repeat the same canned phrases over and over again. But the health insurance company, they don't care. They're a monopoly. They just got to have someone on the other line. So I wouldn't do that. But you can find people in the Philippines that have excellent English skills.
Right. The store that we sold for
Mike's frozen.
I'm frozen?
Oh, you're back. You're back.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. This is a long stream.
I know. We're wrapping it up. The store that we sold for $650,000 was fully staffed by Filipino employees. Some even in India. It was like 8 VAs. And so I think we had 2 native English speakers, but yeah, they were doing phone sales.
You know, staffing is a whole separate thing within itself. You know, yeah. I would say that if mastering the search part of it, like I feel like you kind of got to commit yourself to really, really doing one thing before you think about the next thing.
Yeah. So the short answer is yes, your sales might suffer if VA is doing the calls instead of you, but that's for many reasons. Your English speaking can be one of them, and your desire, like nobody's going to work harder than you to get the sale. So there's that aspect to it, but it comes down to a point. Is it worth it to have somebody do sales in order to free up my time so I can drive more traffic and get more sales in an absolute sense, even though my sales conversion rate may suffer a little bit? So that's kind of the business decision you have to make. How we doing, Joe? Do we want to keep going? You want to do this one last question?
Well, I like this Evgeny guy. I feel like I want to get him in the course.
Have him call in right now.
I like working with people who they just kind of get it out of the gate.
Yeah. All right. Dex said, how do you manage inventory? How often do you check whether an item is out of stock on your supplier's website to avoid orders for out of stock items, or is there a way to do it automatically? We don't do it as in depth as you may think. Like, if something's out of stock, then I'll just deal with it once it becomes an issue, to be honest. We used to do more like inventory tracking stuff on like different stores where it became an issue. So like if you're dealing with a furniture supplier, they may have hundreds or thousands of products in their inventory, and some things go out of stock, some things whatever. And so like you sell something, it's out of stock. Generally, if it's going to come back in like 4 weeks, you can oftentimes get the customer to wait. If it's longer than that, beyond maybe 6 weeks, it's going to become kind of more of a hassle. So yeah, you can use different inventory management apps that you can drop your supplier's inventory Excel sheet into, and that'll automatically toggle things in and out of stock. We don't do that, but that's our approach. If something becomes an issue where people keep buying it and it's out of stock and they're complaining and stuff like that, then yeah, just mark it as a draft and whatever. Move on. All right, we got to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up. I feel like there's
okay.
Telesales market, like thoughts on solar niche with telesales marketing along with Google ads. There are lots of products within solar that I think you could definitely sell, but if you're going to be calling people and like cold calling them and talking to them about solar, I think you got an uphill battle to fight there, because that is very like cliche, annoying telemarketer thing.
Yeah, just do it the regular way. Do an off-grid store, and just do it the regular way. Anyway, that's it. BuildAssetsOnline.com/enroll. If you want to get a free strategy call with us, see if you're a good fit to do things the way that we do it. People are selling their stores for 6 figures. We're going crazy. And I'll tell you what, Joe, we're not making stores and then shutting them down after a few months.
No.
You know why? We've been at this for many, many years. We know what it takes to have a good store. We know what it takes to have a bad store.
And there were times when we were going to quit, but we never quit.
Yeah.
And that's why we I don't know. That's why
you're here wrapped up in a friggin' Dragon Ball Z blanket at 10 in the morning yelling at people.
Exactly.
This is what it takes. Anyway, thank you guys for coming along. BuildAssetsOnline.com/enroll. Go there, take it or leave it. But as always, take it easy.